Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Boxing Authorities. Joining me, as always, Luther Dupree Jr., Smoking Jim Frazier, and my name is Claudio Relsano. Guys, we talk about the heavyweights a lot, and the guys we talk about are who? Wilder, Fury, Anthony Joshua, Ruiz. We'll mention Ortiz. Once in a while, we'll sneak in a Joe Joyce, and we'll sneak him in. But who are some of the young, up-and-coming heavyweights who are you think are going to make some noise, and not just make some noise, Luther and Jim, but guys who are actually going to do some damage and maybe even win a major belt?
Well, one guy that I'm very happy about, Big Baby Anderson.
The real Big Baby.
The real Big Baby, the clean, all natural, so we think right now, Big Baby Anderson from Ohio. A lot of potential. He's been knocking out everybody. He was punishing Tyson Fury and F.A. Ajagba in the training camp. He looks very strong. He's one guy I'm really high on. Another guy is F.A. Ajagba, the Nigerian nightmare type of guy, very strong. Another guy who punches very slow, but he's very strong. I think he has potential. And I'm not giving up on Daniel Dubois.
Okay.
I think he has talent.
The slow puncher is Joe Joyce.
Joe Joyce as well. I think Daniel Dubois, I don't like his trainers. I think there's so much more he could do with his athleticism and power and head movement. We'll see when he comes back if he's learned to move his head or if he's still going to keep his head there for a straight jab. But those are the three guys that I like right now. Big Baby, the next American heavyweight champion after Deontay Wilder retires.
All right. Smoking Jim.
I like the Nigerian nightmare. And do I need to spell this again, Claudio? You want to help me out with it?
You know what?
Ooh,
I've been doing
too.
some research on him. Now, let me get my glass so I can say this right. Arslandik Makhmudov. He's a
Yes.
Russian, 6'5". He's 11-0, 32 years old. But Makhmudov, you know what, Jim? We were joking with you and laughing about that. I saw some clips of that boy. He can hit.
Oh, thanks,
He
Claudio.
can.
Go ahead. I owe you an apology.
And one more, Filip Hrgović. He's another one. Phil, he was also a guy knocking. He's the one who knocked around Anthony Joshua in a training camp before that first Andy Ruiz fight. They say he laid him out a couple times.
Well,
So,
thanks, Luther. I'm glad you
Hrgović
said that
is
because
tough.
Claudio always says that he likes guys that's good after the national anthem. You keep giving me guys that's good before the anthem. But, hey, I also like the fighting Marine, Michael Coffey. I think that he's going to give it everything he got, and he got a lot of potential.
Is he a champ?
He got a very educated left hand. I like
True.
that.
Is he a future champ?
Pardon me?
You think he could be a future champ?
Well, listen, I think that the young guys, I think the heavyweight division is alive and well. I also like, I don't like the real Big Baby. You guys seem to like him.
Why don't you
But
like him?
think
I
the
like the
country
old
can
Big
get-
Baby.
Yeah.
The
I think the country
one
can
with
get
all the
behind him.
juice?
You know what?
And
I know.
the
I know.
Mexican meat?
I know. No, he didn't do the Mexican meat, did he?
I don't
That
know.
was-
He was doing
But
everything else.
I was really disappointed in him because I really thought he had the body, he had the personality,
Yes,
big man who could
yes.
move, had good hand speed.
Well, we know why he
and
could
got
move and
busted
had
a
that
couple
hand
times.
speed.
And it's like, come on, you don't need that stuff. And now he's probably done. So
He's
now
done.
the real Big Baby.
From Ohio.
I mean, so Jim.
And the one thing about Big Baby, the ring on her finger didn't mean nothing to the the Big Baby, did it?
Yeah. Well, I like Makhmudov. I do. After Jim mentioned him, I did some
Who's he
research.
fight? Who's he fight?
He did fight
Some
Samuel
Russian.
Peter.
How old is Samuel Peter?
Say 63. So what? But he was good in his day, right? But he did beat him. I also now a lot of people have been talking about Darmani Rock from the USA. He's kind of the American guy besides Anderson that they're talking about.
I haven't seen him too much.
The guy who I still think has a shot to do something, and I'm pulling for him because I think he's exciting. He's got to pick his spots, and that's Adam Kownacki. I mean, he's one of those guys. He reminds me of an
He
old.
got to get past Helenius first.
I know.
We'll see if he worked on his defense.
He reminds me of Don Cockle, who fought Rocky Marciano years ago. Rocky just pounded him, and one of those things, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. He was like this, and we had highlights of him before. I mean, Rocky was hitting him, and Cockle was going like this, and finally Rocky wound up and just slugged him, and he went down. But Kalnaki can take a punch, and he gives a punch. He's not a big one-punch knockout guy, okay? But he's exciting. I'd
is
like to see
exciting.
him. I'd like to see him get a belt. I really would. He's not a stylist. He doesn't look good. None of that kind of stuff. But I'd love to see him win the belt. And with his experience, now I don't think he would do good against your boy Mark Mudoff, but because of the size difference, I don't think. But I think those two guys. So if I had to choose two guys, I would choose Jim's Russian, once again, Arslan Makhmudov, and Adam Kalnaki.
Wow. You
Anderson,
still
I'm not.
Kanaki?
I still am.
Ah,
He's got
man,
heart.
He went
can
take
take
life
a.
and death with
I know.
a journeyman.
I know.
And then he lost
And what do you
another
always say?
journeyman.
What's your famous? He only lost one fight.
Yeah, but he went life and death with Chris Areola.
Oh yeah.
Before that,
But
and
what,
then
what's your
Robert
saying?
Helenius.
What do you always say? Everybody can have a bad night.
Everybody can have a bad
Unless
night.
he's Adam Kalnaki, then you can't
That
have a
was
bad night.
a bad night against a journeyman. I started questioning you. I was high on him until
True.
that Chris
No
Areola
question.
fight. They went
Areola's
life
tough.
and death, and then he came back
Areola's
and got
tough.
destroyed by Helenius. I
Right.
said, "Oh man, he has to drop way off my futures list after that." We'll see. Hopefully, he's made the correct defensive adjustment,
Right.
and he's not blocking with his face
I'm
anymore.
telling you. But again, Jim's guy, Makhmudov, is the only guy size-wise that can go up against the big three. And Ruiz, that didn't bother him. The size didn't bother Ruiz. And I'm giving Ruiz more credit as we go along because he
Fast hands.
Yeah, fast hands, and he's trying. He just didn't say, "All right, I lost. I'm done." He
Except
disappeared.
the second Anthony Joshua. All he tried to do was eat.
Well, no, right.
eat,
No,
and
right, I'm
eat.
talking about after that. Yeah, he's changing his tune a little bit.
And
He's
he,
changing
and
it.
you know what? He got rocked by Areola as well.
Yeah, no, he
in
can get
that
rocked.
fight.
He did.
So,
Yeah, he did.
He got rocked.
But I think I want to see this Makhmudov more, but size-wise, I think he's the only guy that obviously can go up against Joshua, Wilder, and Fury, the big three. Now, Jim mentioned some uppercuts. He's 32, so I think mentally he's mature.
He has to get there now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Mentally, he's mature, but physically, do you think he's mature enough? Oh, let me ask you this: he's 11-0. Okay, when would you want to put him up against one of the big boys?
Now.
Your boy Mark Mudoff.
He's 30.
He's ready. He's ready right now. For anybody, he got that uppercut, man.
I'd like to see. I'd like to see these young guys get matched up more and more.
I would like to see him go against a real big baby
I ain't gonna see that.
in his career.
Right.
Oh, he put.
'Cause I'm tired of
he
hearing
put that,
about it.
He put that Mahmoud, whatever his name, to sleep. I'm
Mahmoudov.
sure of that. And you say these guys can't get matched up against the Furies and the Wilders. They're already in camp fighting these guys. Anderson is already, his dad and Fury said it. He's giving them heck in training.
And let's face
Practice
it.
squad.
And let's face
Doesn't
it.
matter. Listen, did you see Fury's face after he sparred with Big Baby? Black eye, busted lip, everything else from Big Baby and F.A. Ajagba. So they're in there with these guys already. That's the future.
Whether
That
he's
was
talking
spending the
about.
weekend with the gypsies. That's what happened to Fury. That's all they do is fight.
He was partying and buying luxury cars.
But we can talk about Ajagba, we can talk about Joyce, we can talk about the Russian Makhmudov, but and they could very well, including Anderson as well, Big Baby Anderson. But
How's Fury's recovery from COVID? I haven't heard.
he's doing well. He's
A
doing
negative
well.
test, huh? Somebody said that on his desk. Huh?
It just
Yeah.
gives him more time to pump the fight up that much.
Now he's talking about Freddie Roach as a trainer, possibly. That's
really?
that's the new thing. He
Who
reached
knows?
out to Freddie
Who knows?
Roach.
All right. But you know what, though? Those guys could all be skilled, including your boy from Russia. But are they going to bring money to the table, Jim? That's the big thing. Joyce included. And all these guys we mentioned, Ajagba, all of them. Do you think they're going to bring the big money to the table?
Well, it's not them that's not able to bring the money. It's like you always say, when we used to watch the ESPN fights, they told the story. You knew those
Right.
guys up and coming. and
Exactly.
the stories is what built the purse.
Exactly right.
These guys, like I said, Luther's a boxing historian, and he doesn't even know this great Russian. So,
Great Russian, he's 11-0. I'd like to see him step. Right now he's in D-level competition. He has to get to C and B before he can get on my list.
And
I think I'm upset that F.A. Ajagba and who was he fighting? Sanchez fight. That didn't happen. But those are two guys. Ready to make that next step.
We
Whoever
talking about
wins
money
it.
fights. That
Listen,
wasn't
no.
no money.
Whoever wins that
That
is
wasn't
in line
bringing
for
no
a
money.
money fight. None of these guys are. the big three, and after that, all these guys
Maybe
are pretty much.
Ruiz, maybe.
Ruiz is up in that next one,
Maybe.
right? Because of the upset of when he made
And
Anthony
plus
Joshua.
people like
quit.
him.
Right.
People like his, But Jim brings up a good point, and we've said this all the time. You just can't say, here, fight. You got to, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And I've said this before. CBS told the story about the kid who ran away from home, from an abused home, and became light heavyweight champion of the world, Donnie Lalonde. ABC had the guy, the kid with the big smile, flashy Olympian with the big personality, Sugar Ray Leonard. CBS, again, had the Italian kid who wanted to win the belt for his dad, Boom Boom Mancini. You have to tell Buster Douglas. I knew who Buster was, but when they start talking about, and I've said this before, they showed that clip of Buster wanting to win the title for his mom. Then Buster got choked up, and that's my guy right there,
Claudia,
Buster. You
but
gotta
now,
tell
now
stories.
listen, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree because now you have to, who are two of the most known guys in the sport of boxing right now?
Canelo, and nobody knows anything about him.
Logan Paul and Jake Paul. How did they get it? They didn't get a CBS special. They got it from
Social media,
YouTube.
yeah.
Social media is where boxing lives. You
Okay.
got to build your profile there because the CBSs, ABCs, the NBCs aren't there.
Well, then the
it's
promoters-
all,
okay,
it's
I'm with
all
you.
about the social
I'm with you.
media.
But
Those
the
guys worked that
Well,
into
see,
a Showtime
I gotta
contract.
agree with Claudio on this
And you're
because
wrong.
Wilder was built up because he had a special needs daughter, but nobody talked about the 8 other
Who
kids
built-
he got.
Who built that up?
Nobody talked about them.
Of course, you would throw some slander out there, Smoking Jim. But listen, again, he was built on social media by those knockouts, guys getting put to sleep
Well,
and concussed.
Luther, you make a good
The
point.
social media is where it's at.
Okay, I'm a big believer. I have a sugar packet that I found in college. He who has a thing to sell and goes and whispers in a well is not apt to get the dollars as he who climbs a tree and hollers. So promote. These guys, they know the social media is the big thing now.
That's what they gotta
They're
do.
promoters. And how many times
The
have I
Paul
said?
brothers have
Right.
laid it out.
But how many times have I said, when the fight was on, Wilder Fury, get those guys on late night.
Yes,
Conan, not Conan, what's the other guy? Kimmel and all them other clowns. Get
Jimmy
them on.
Fallon and all that.
Show these people who they are. Tell them, yes, they're going to joke around. Fury's, he jokes, but he also has a story. Wilder has a story. Somebody's going to connect. Somebody's going to say, you know what?
Social media,
Well,
guys.
then do it.
You guys
Then
are,
do it.
Social media
Well,
is
then
where
do
it's
it.
at.
That's what I'm saying. But it doesn't hurt to be on TV as well. But promote them on social media as well. But see, those guys like Logan Paul, those boys, that's all they do is social media.
Yeah.
They don't go on these. I don't think they go on.
And who's getting these big pay-per-views? Did
Oh, I
you
know,
see his pay-per-view?
I know,
He
I
had
know.
the second biggest pay-per-view
But
of
either
the
way,
year.
whether it's on social media, TV, or whatever, go out and promote these guys.
Exactly.
They're promoters. That's what their title is.
Listen.
Promoter. I'm a promoter. What do you do? I'm a promoter.
And that's my
well,
thing.
Then promote.
And that's my thing.
You're a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, and that's my thing. Promoters aren't, you see Eddie Hearn out there pushing fights, but
Yeah,
a
he's
lot
on
of them,
social media.
He's on, but what happened? He
He's
just
on-
signed a social media deal with Instagram and all this
Right.
because he knows that's where the sport is. You build it through
First
the
time
social
you ever seen
media.
anything nice about Eddie Hearn.
Oh man.
Oh,
I'm
his
with-
biggest thing is signing judges, probably. Seems like it.
Well, again, I think you said the heavyweight division is alive and well. We came up in a time, not that we don't want to sound like old, but in the time of Norton. And
Overrated.
Okay.
That was
All right,
that
all
was
right,
the golden
okay.
era heavyweights.
No, wait. And that's
Grandpa.
a segment.
That was the,
that's a segment we don't want to give away. Are the most overrated heavyweight. But he wasn't no cakewalk.
No.
Okay. You had
Especially
some
when he
boys.
went to a
Jerry,
psychiatrist, got hypnotized. Yeah.
Jerry Quarry. You knew you were going to be in for a
Yeah.
fight against
Right.
Jerry Quarry. So obviously Smoking Joe and Ali. You had Ernie Shavers.
Shavers, yes.
Foreman. Ron Lyle.
Lyles,
You
yeah.
didn't want to play with Ron Lyle.
Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy
golden
Young made
era.
you look terrible. Who?
the golden era. I said just the golden
Yeah,
era.
Jimmy Young, made you look awful. Then Jimmy Ellis was kind of at the tail end, but
Yeah,
he
he
was
could hit.
tough.
He
He
could
could
bang.
hit. So you had Chuck Wepner
Yeah.
and Joe Bugner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to win. I'm
Yeah.
not saying you weren't going to win, but you were going to get busted
Back
up.
your lunch. Back
Yeah,
your lunch.
that's right. So now that's what I'm saying.
Tex Cobb. Oh,
Tex
I'm
Cobb.
sorry.
Well, no, you beat the hell out of him. Tex Cobb, I'll never forget. I was at a supermarket parking lot, and he was going to fight $1 million fight against Larry Holmes in 82, 83, something like that. Yeah, and he goes. The reporter said, Randy, you think this fight will change you? You're going to make $1 million. Everybody's going to know you. He says, I sure as hell hope it does. And Holmes, I think that was the last fight Howard Cosell
Cosell,
did.
yeah, he quit
He said
after that.
because he just punched him, and he would beat the hell out of him, and Cobb wouldn't go anywhere. But again,
I love the ref in that. He
oh
was-
yeah, I know you would
Yeah,
like
just
him.
let
You
him
would
go.
like him. I think it's the guy who did the Fury Wilder fight, right, Reese? But I don't know if I'm as confident in the heavyweight division as you guys. Like, okay, we talked about that kind of fight. You talk about Coffey and Gerald Washington. I mean, is that going to be fireworks? And if Washington pulls off an upset, do you really think he's going to garner the money to, like Buster pulled off an upset against Tyson. He had a huge payday against Holyfield.
24 million.
Yeah, 24, 25 million. Who's going to do that now? Who's going to? That's what I'm saying.
Right. Unlike Jim, I think it has the potential to be there, but these fights have to happen. Wilder Fury 3 has to happen, and then Anthony Joshua has to fight the winner. And then these young guys got to start fighting these
They're going to
guys.
make money regardless.
Let me ask you guys a quick question before we go to our break. Obvious, again, Wilder, Fury, Joshua, big three. Let's squeeze Ruiz in there. I have one guy who I think can draw some money, and that is Kalnaki. Who's another guy do you think to make it 5? We got Wilder, Fury, Joshua, Ruiz will go 4. Who's the 5th guy to you, Jim, that could sneak in some good money?
That's a very, very good question. And we probably would have to go maybe grab somebody out of the cruiserweight division or something like that at this point.
Okay.
To
Like a
round off
Usyk?
that number 5. Because I'm like you. No, Usyk couldn't sell water. But,
In a desert, right?
But, hey, listen, I was like you. I believe if he can get back, Big Baby was good for the heavyweight.
Yeah, he
division.
was, because he had a mouth.
Let
Because
that
you
go.
had 2
He's
guys
done.
that were good for the heavyweight division, Fury and Big Baby.
I'm with you.
Because Wilder
I'm
can't
with you.
promote nothing.
That's it.
He
You
won't even-
joke,
listen,
but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Listen, Fury.
Yeah.
Listen,
You need that.
Jim,
come on,
Luther, he's right.
That's not true. First of all,
You
Fury
either
did-
liked him or
Fury-
didn't. Evil
Fury-
Knievel, people
Fury-
went to go see him
Fury
to
did not-
crash
Fury-
or to make it
Fury
through.
did
Big
not
Baby.
sell other than Wilder. The other fights, those
Why
weren't
did Mayweather
sellouts.
sell?
They
Was he an
weren't
exciting
sellouts.
fighter?
He was
People
exciting,
hated him.
and he talked. Yes,
Right.
he was exciting.
Big
he was
Baby,
the best.
that's what Jim's point is.
No,
Big Baby talked a
Big
bunch of
Baby
mess.
was not- Big
And he got
Baby was
personal.
not a
Yes,
seller.
yes,
he was
he
not
did.
a. He was not a guy who was selling out either.
He'd have sold
No.
against Fury. He'd have made some sort of
No.
statement. I'm
No.
telling you,
No.
it takes 2 to tango. Big Baby and Miller could have been. I think it's over. I hope not, but I think he
We
could
got
have
to get
sold
off
tickets.
this kick. Listen, he was a
You need
hype
personalities.
job.
Right,
He was
okay.
a hype job. He
I didn't
was
say he was gonna
hyping
do it for
everything
10
up.
years.
No, he was not a seller. He
We
was not
need a
the
young
one.
Kimbo
None of these guys.
Slice.
None of these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
We need. This is why we need these guys to fight each other and separate themselves. Right now,
Okay.
nobody has separated themselves from the big 3 because they're not fight. They're all fighting C and D level competition. So none of these guys are at
And
that
if they
level.
do go to that level, like a Dominic Brazil, who we forgot his name last week or last show, what was he going to do? Who's he going to make you forget about? I mean, he didn't have that personality.
No, I mean he was just in that position. He got knocked out by.
I give everybody
Joshua,
credit for going there,
knocked
but he didn't
out
have the
by Wilder.
personality.
But
Jim's
yeah.
saying Anders, Big Baby Miller had the personality.
Yes, he
but,
did.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk. This is always fun. The greatest top 10 heavyweights of all time. Right back with the boxing authorities. Okay, something that always gets talked about. It's always a lot of fun to do, and that is the greatest heavyweights of all time, the top 10 heavyweights of all time. Luther, you're up, brother.
All right, well, I'll start with my number 10. My number 10 is Iron Mike Tyson, one of my favorites.
Okay.
I would have had him higher on a list, but he talked about his Wizinator too much as a way that he was getting through some of these tests. But, Mike Tyson was definitely one of the reasons I love the sport. No man in the sport intimidated grown men before they walked in. Michael Spinks, when they called his name, I looked, there was a puddle of liquid underneath his shorts. Definitely intimidated guys before they walked in there. Great hooks, I loved his combinations. He would follow up with the left hook. He was just a vicious guy in there. I loved the head movement. I got him number 10. Nobody brought the excitement. He was just not only in the ring, outside the ring, the most outlandish statements, you had to say it was him. He was definitely one of the best, man. Just great energy. He was schooled from 18 to be a killer, to be vicious. He was 16-year-old fighting grown men. So he was bred to be. Look at that. Look at the power.
And you only got him 10?
I got him 10, but I told you why. Listen,
Who do you got at 9?
Because at 9, let me go with Vladimir Klitschko.
Oh, I'm surprised you got him on there.
Why are you surprised?
Because
He
you
was-
rip on him all
I
the time.
do rip on him, but he was a dominant
All
guy.
right.
I hated his style, but Emmanuel
what?
Stewart
Very
gave him the
good.
game plan that
All right.
Lennox Lewis fall. Big guy, get a big jab that nobody can get through and come over with the right. Definitely, I have him number 9, solid guy.
All right.
Number 8, one of my favorite all time, Evander, real deal Holyfield. This guy brought it every time, came up, cruiserweight, and he was an undersized heavyweight, but fought everybody. George Foreman, Mike Tyson,
beat
everybody
him.
thought he was going to get killed, fought him. Riddick Bowe, he had a great series with Riddick Bowe.
did.
Very undersized against all these guys. Nobody had a bigger heart. Even fought with a hole in his heart, Claudio, and it was healed by
Benny
an event.
Hinn, boy.
Hinn. But this guy was just amazing. Look at the body. He was always in the gym. Exciting fighter. Combination.
And took it serious. I don't
Took
want
it
to see
serious.
that. Get
Buster
that picture
Douglas.
up. I don't want to see that.
Claudio just fell
I don't
out
wanna
on
see
that
that.
one. But this guy was a monster. I loved him. And then the guy I have at number 7 who beat him, Lennox Lewis, very underrated heavyweight fighter,
agree.
big guy. You know, he was the first of the next coming of these big guys. You talk about the Wilders, the Furies, the Joshua. It all started with Lennox Lewis.
Right.
You know, he had the jab. He had the
Boxer,
big punch.
puncher.
You know, he was always smooth in the ring. You know, had his locks going for a while. He was just vicious. Now, his chin, you could get him a couple times if he underestimated you. His only 2 losses were somebody just caught him and he
Two
you know,
big
he
hitters.
2 big hitters. He didn't have his guard up and he got put to sleep.
Which is
But he
gonna
came
happen.
back and
And
destroyed
beat
him.
him.
He
Easy.
was smooth.
Easy.
Destroyed Mike Tyson. He
PPG
got
in his
robbed
chin.
against Evander Holyfield, but I got him number 7. And number 6, I got Joe Frazier. You know, we talk about his legendary matches with you know, Muhammad Ali, the hooks.
Yeah, we
This
won't
guy
talk about the Foreman fight, though.
You know, the guy who should have had a statue before Rocky, but they finally gave him one. Joe Frazier was my man. He was tough. You know, I hated the way him and Muhammad Ali went at each
Yeah,
other at
yeah.
first, but they were really cool at the very end. So that
Who
was
played
great
him
to
in
see.
that one movie?
James Toney.
Listen,
I know. I know.
Look just like
I
Joe.
know some important stuff.
Number 5, I got Larry Holmes. You know, he had the jab. You know, he came at that time after Muhammad Ali and before one of my favorites, Mike Tyson. But the jab was just unstoppable with Larry Holmes. You know, just solid, man. What could you say? Don King was another guy who promoted him. I loved his game.
And
I
he
think
was a
does good.
serious professional
Serious,
fighter.
yes. I think he could have
took it
gone
serious.
with anybody, but that jab was just amazing. Nobody could get through it. Was just amazing.
And he could hit going back.
He
as
could
you
hit
can
going
see.
back. He could fight a number of styles, light on
Mike
his
Weaver.
feet. I like the way he moved. Number 4, I know Claudio's going to get mad. Let me duck before he swings at me. I got Rocky Marciano, one of the greatest of all time, but I
4.
got him number 4.
4.
You know, I love Rocky. I love his whole story. I love, you know, I was upset what he did to Joe Lewis at the end of his career, but you know, he had
So was
sympathy.
he. So was he.
And he helped him out a lot. You know, definitely one of the greatest of all time. I have him number 4 because the top 3 are my favorites of all time.
All right.
Number 3, and I wanted to put him up a little higher, but I couldn't, is George Foreman.
Okay.
Listen, man, this guy, you talk about guys' power lasting from the 1st to the 12th round.
Decades.
This guy lasted decades.
That's right.
You know, he was a beast in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Put out Michael Moore, you know, Muhammad Ali did get him, but what he did to Joe Frazier, nobody did to Joe Frazier.
Picked him up. My mom was so worried about that fight.
Man, look
Never
at this.
forget.
I mean, this guy would just wind up
Chevall
anything.
was tough, too.
You know, he would give you brain damage if you took too many punches from him. Look at this. I don't know how this guy's standing
George
up.
Chevalo could take a hit.
He could take a punch. But yeah, George Foreman was definitely my number 3. Power in both hands. Look at how he just wind up muscles. Schooled by Sonny Liston, who really got him to develop this you know, mean personality. Number 2, I got Joe, the Brown Bomber Lewis. We talked about him earlier, man. He was just a terrific fighter. Everything he had to do in the ring, everything he had to fight outside the ring. Like you said, Smoking Jim, earlier. Big gap between Jack Johnson and Joe Louis. Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, he held a whole country on his back. He did some great things. It was just, as I look at the film, all the moves. He had so much power, man. I wish he could have fought Rocky at a younger age. I think it would have been a better
Been
fight.
quicker.
I would not have been quicker, but it would have been such a better fight, man. Just dedicated to his sport, just a beast out there. And number one all time, everybody
Deontay Wilder, right?
everybody gotta
Deontay
have
Wilder.
Muhammad Ali, the
Deontay
greatest
Wilder.
out there. Nobody would have beat him. If you put together a perfect boxer, which we did last time, everything you need. You need a chin, you need skills, you need a heart. It's got to be the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. He lost 3 prime years of his life, and he's still the greatest. Give him his props.
Beautiful to watch.
Beautiful to watch. He was pretty. He had the moves in the ring. He had the voice outside the ring. He would rap. He would sing. He had the interaction with the announcers. The greatest of all time.
Sure was.
Number one is Ali. If you don't have a number one, your list is garbage. And that's my list, man. Look at Ali.
Smoking Jim, you're up.
Well, I'm glad Luther talked about the super heavyweights. So I only had one in there, Lennox Lewis. But hey, everybody likes honorable mentions. So Harry the Black Panther, Willis, Ernie Shavers, Jerry Quarry, Jack Dempsey, and Joe Lewis.
Wait a minute.
What numbers are
What
they?
are they?
What numbers are
That
they?
was honorable mention.
Oh, okay.
Everybody
Well,
likes that.
okay.
Do it one more
There
time.
goes
Do it one
number
more
10.
time.
But
No,
again,
all right.
we're only doing
All right.
10.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention. Harry the Black Panther, Willis, Ernie Shavers, Jerry Quarry, Jack Dempsey, and Joe Lewis.
Joe Lewis is honorable
Yeah.
mention.
Oh, you're
All right.
And now we're
That's
talking
disgusting.
about
That's disgusting.
All right.
top 10.
Go ahead.
Okay.
10B Tyson Fury, 10A Jersey Joe Walcott. If it wasn't for jail, 9B Ika Biabuchi would have
Oh,
been
my
up there.
goodness.
How about number 9,
Ike.
Jerry Cooney?
Wow.
Number 8B Larry Holmes. Number 8
I'm lost.
Joe
Go
Frazier.
ahead.
Number 7 David Tua.
Look at him.
David Tua
Wait,
knocked
wait,
out
hold up,
champion
hold up.
Michael
Hold up,
Moore,
hold up.
and
How
he
many
knocked
belts- what
out
belt did he
Ika
win?
Biabuchi. I love Jerry Cooney. He's a friend. Love Jerry, but he doesn't have a belt. Ika Biabuchi, who's not a friend. He didn't have a belt.
How about number
ahead.
6E, Klitschko? How about 6B, Anthony, Cassius Clay, Joshua?
Oh, my
Number
gosh.
6, George
Stop.
Foreman. Number
I'm lost. All right, I'm
5,
done.
everybody will agree with number 5. He got to be in the top 5. Muhammad Ali,
Oh,
the
that
greatest
list
number
is
5.
garbage.
Number 4, Iron Mike Tyson.
Oh, my God.
How about number 3, Sonny Liston? Everybody talks about Kimbo Slice, but Sonny
You
Liston
talk about Kimbo
was the
Slice.
number
Who's
one.
everybody?
Sonny Liston was the number 1 bone breaker for the mob. Where's Al Capone's money? I count all knockouts. Number 2, where was he on your list, Luther? Jack Johnson.
I'm with you. I'm with Jack Johnson.
And number 1C, Rocky Marciano. Number 1B, Cassius Clay. And the greatest fighter of all time, number 1, Cassius X.
That is the most wildest.
Wait,
He had-
Ika
we said
Biabuchi.
10. He named 60
I only
I only
fighters.
had 10.
No,
He named
more than
60
that.
I think an
fighters.
honorable mention only hit
Wait a
10.
minute.
No.
Cooney didn't have a
10 A,
belt.
B, and
Biabuchi
C.
didn't have a belt. Did he mention Pinklin Thomas, too?
Who's the black fighter that's in the Hall of Fame from Pittsburgh that nobody would fight?
Joe Hip.
No, the
I know.
black guy.
Burley.
Charlie Burley never had
Charlie
a belt.
Burley.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't. It didn't allow him to fight.
You had
with it.
David Tua in there.
Did he knock out Michael Moore in 30 seconds?
I don't have
and
Michael
Joe
Moore in my
Ruiz
top
at
10. David Tua.
Were they 2 champions?
Ika
that he knocked
Biabuchi
out
could have
in
been.
less than a minute?
Biabuchi.
Who's the other one? Wait a
Could've
minute.
been.
Who's the other one you had? Oh, there was off. Who? You had.
He had
Ika
Muhammad
Biabuchi.
Ali 4 different times on his
No,
top 10.
Three.
Three.
Three. Okay.
I had Muhammad Ali once. He was
They're
number
the same.
5.
Cassius Clay
Put your
and
glasses
Cassius
back on. They're the same person.
No.
They're the
2
same
different
person.
fighters.
He did have which Klitschko, Vlad or Vitaly?
I didn't know. I just couldn't tell the difference.
Vladimir, probably.
Same.
You had him in AB, right?
A, B,
10A
C.
was Vladimir.
Joe Lewis, he gets honorable mention.
Yes.
That's
Ooh.
disgusting.
Yes.
You didn't
I
mention
love Joe.
Evander.
Huh?
You didn't mention Evander.
No, you
But
only
you had-
told me 10. I could
But,
only do 10.
but you had Mike
We had
Tyson.
Jerry Corey.
But you had Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
Wait a minute,
yeah,
Jerry
yeah,
Corey.
yeah.
Jerry
Stop.
Corey. Wait a minute.
A
Jerry
young Mike
Corey.
Tyson would have killed Evander.
Wait a minute. Jerry Corey was.
But
He was
you know
better
they
than
fought,
Evander.
right?
Huh?
Jerry Corey is better than Evander.
Jerry Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know they fought,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You do know they fought.
Jerry Corey.
If I could do 20, 25, I could have
he'd
some
have
of
busted
them
him up.
names on
Well,
there.
you
here's the
can't-
real top 10. Here's the
we
real
already know
top
who your
10.
number one is.
All right. Number 10, 9, and 8 are Rocky Marciano. Number 7 is Primo Canera. Number 6 is Rocky Marciano. No. Okay. Number 10, I'm going to do like Jim. I know Luther
Oh,
don't like
my
it.
goodness.
I can't get one of these guys off. They dominated, well, two of them dominated their era. Tyson dominated their era. Klitschko dominated his era. Whether he was excited or not, he dominated. And Riddick Bowe.
Riddick Bowe.
Riddick Bowe
Ooh.
he only lost to one guy. He lost to Goliath.
Well, he lost to Lennox Lewis because he threw a belt in the garbage
Well,
can. So I'll take that as
if
an
I
L.
take one guy out,
if
it
you throw
would
a
be
belt
Bowe.
in the garbage can to
Yeah, they
avoid
should have
one,
fought.
he
They
shouldn't
should have
be on
fought.
the list.
There's no
Get
question. They should
Riddick
have
Bowe
fought.
off of there.
But he was
Come
talented.
on,
He
man.
was talented. If there's one guy I'm going to take off, it would be him. But I got Tyson and Klitschko, and I just like Riddick Bowe. He moved well,
Yeah.
could take a good hit, and he was serious too. Him and Evander went at it. Evander hit him with some shots, and man, he just. If it wasn't for Fan Man, maybe he'd have won that fight. But look at that jab. You talk about quick jab. And it wasn't long either. And he was a big man, Jim. He was short and quick. Look at that. When you're tall like that, you would think it would be a longer punch. No, not with Riddick. And he was nice. And he moved well, and he could hit going back.
Yes,
He was nice. Number 9 is somebody that Jim did mention, Jack Johnson. All the issues that he had to deal with, and he still, because focus is important. You know, focus is important. And look at the crowd he drew, okay? Wow. But Jack Johnson, you have to put him up there.
Era, man.
Yeah,
You
but he
always
was
gotta-
tough. Those
He was
boys
tough,
used to
yeah.
fight
20 rounds.
40 rounds in the heat.
And the referee
Bring it
wouldn't
back.
count. He would just let you
Bring
look.
those
He'd just
days
look. Is he
back.
breathing? He can get up and go.
And the other thing about those guys,
Look at
when
this.
you knock them down, look, he
Look,
stood
referee's
over
not
you.
counting.
No,
Hey,
Jim loves
he's
those
still
guys, and so does
breathing.
Luther.
He's
Look,
still breathing. Watch you get up. Jump
he-
back on him.
look at-
Bam. Oh, you getting up? No? Okay. Oh, he getting
look at-
bam again.
Those were different times and different
times.
sports.
So I got to
But
do
you
a whole
gotta go
different era
Jack
for
Johnson.
Jack Johnson and
Number
those guys.
8 is the guy who probably was the first guy to really market his name and make money being who he was, and that was Jack Dempsey, a good role model
yeah,
for the
yeah,
business end of it. Joe Louis, number 7, obviously iconic. I mean, if there was a logo, well, no, I'm not going to say that. Muhammad Ali would be. But Joe Louis was an iconic fighter. You have to put him in there. Larry Holmes. I made the mistake of not appreciating Larry Holmes when he was fighting. I appreciate him more now. Also, outside of the ring, I like what he did with his money outside of the ring. He owned buildings and restaurants and businesses, and he's doing fantastic with his money. One of the handful of guys who did that. But look at him move.
Yeah.
He moved better than people gave him. Look at that. And he was nobody's as pretty as Muhammad.
And that's
But
what
Holmes
hurt him.
could. And look at that, how he moved. This is Scott Ledoux, how he backed up against Scott. Did you know that was Scott Ledoux?
No, I didn't.
From Minnesota. Now look at him with his arm. Look at that. Look how quick he was. And if you look, he fought people. I mean, he fought Norton. He fought Shavers. Cooney was tough. And he
A lot of those guys at the end of their career, but you're right.
well, Cooney wasn't. Cooney was at the
Okay,
beginning.
Cooney.
Mike
All right.
Weaver was tough. You know, Ronaldo Snipes was nothing to write home with. He was tough. Okay, so I got Larry Holmes at 6. Number 5, and the only reason why I have him at 5 is because he didn't beat number 4, and that's Evander Holyfield. I give Evander so much credit. I appreciate his seriousness in the ring. He was for real. The real deal is a great name for him. He always came in shape. Never one time. How many fighters can you actually say never came into a fight at any weight class not in shape? The man was always in shape. Even when he had, as Luther said, he had a hole in his heart, he still came in.
Wow.
Imagine that. And he still did what he did. And he fought big men. He was a cruiserweight who
Always
fought
undersized,
George Foreman,
right.
fought Lennox Lewis, fought Riddick Bowe, and not just once, right? And he beat them all. Well, Lennox, it was a draw, but nonetheless, when you
That was
went
a
to go see
robbery.
Evander Holyfield, you knew you were going to see a fight.
Right.
Tough man who took it seriously. Luther hit it on the head. Lennox Lewis, very underrated. He's a guy, when you say boxer puncher, he's the first guy I think about.
Yeah.
Because he could box. Larry Holmes, too. He could box. He didn't move as well as Larry with the feet, okay? He wasn't light on his feet like that, but he could hit. And he had good head movement. And the thing that I liked and appreciated a lot about Lennox Lewis was, and I've said it numerous times, when he fought David Tua, when he fought Tyson, when he fought a big slugger, he had to really hone in and focus on those guys. Now, 2 times for a second, he didn't. Rock Rahman and Oliver McCall. That's going to happen.
None of them are going to the Hall of Fame.
None of them are going, let's say, buy a
Hey,
ticket.
It's boxing.
And
Heavyweight
Jim, like Jim
boxing.
says all the time, if you're 200 plus,
You can hit.
you can hit. So I got to give Lennox Lewis his credit. Number 3, and really I could do 1A, 1B, 1C with these guys, and these next 3 are George Foreman. George Foreman did something unbelievable. Champion in the 70s and again in the 90s. 2 different fighters, and I know Luther doesn't like it, but I agree with Jim whenever he says Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. I don't know where the hell Cassius X comes from, but that's beside the point. Floyd, Pretty Boy, and Money. I agree with Jim in the sense they're 2 different fighters, 2 different styles. George Foreman, the first one, was a slugger. He'd come like Muhammad used to say, he'd come and he'd pound you, right? The second one was much better technically. And if you remember, he would stand in the corner because he did not waste
that
punches.
energy.
And he stood there like he was bored. Angelo Dundee said, here's the trainer Angelo Dundee was, George, how you feel? I'm good. Attaboy, George, keep at it. And that was it. Now, when you do this to Shavers, who was arguably, he's
But that's Joe Frazier there.
Oh, was that Joe
Yeah,
Frazier?
that's Joe
Towards the end. Okay, my fault. Yeah. Well, the first time he fought Joe Frazier, he knocked the hell out of him. My
Yeah,
mom, I'll never forget.
knocked him out
He
round.
picked him up with uppercuts. And Ron Lyle blasted Foreman, but George kept coming back. Look at this, toe to toe. Look at that. Look at that.
Rock'em sock.
That is exactly what it
Man.
is. Rock him, sock him.
Your best
2 big
versus my
slugs.
punch.
And let me ask you, not to get off the subject. I'll ask you, Jim. You think Ron Lyle's a champion today?
Oh yeah, he
I
been
think so.
champion. It depends on when they let him out of jail.
Oh.
Yeah.
See,
he got out
Jim
of
gives
jail
you the
just in
backstory.
time.
There's too
And
many.
that's not Wikipedia.
He have a
either.
minor belt.
That's not Wikipedia. Number 2, and he is the most important boxer without question. I say Mike Tyson was the most intimidating. Muhammad Ali was the most important boxer of all time. Beautiful to watch. Could hit going back. Power, very underrated. Look at Joe Frazier's face swelled up. He wasn't just a beautiful fighter. He could hit. And he was, another thing people don't talk about is his accuracy. He was extreme. I don't know if they kept those stats back with the now they do, but unbelievable accuracy. Great jaw, great chin, great recovery. And Luther said, we had another segment one time, we had built the perfect boxer. The 2 guys who you could say on the perfect everything with the body, the feet, the legs, the chin, the jab, the pop, could have been Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard.
He had the greatest phantom punch ever.
Against Sonny Liston, going back, poked him. That was into that. And
Power in both hands.
The
Stop
guy
that.
who, again, power in both hands. Who, again, they say he took 50 punches to give one. Not really true. Had a great chin. When he was down, not just knocked down, I'm talking about Rocky Marciano, but when his nose was split, the referee said, we got to stop it. You're bleeding to death. He said, give me one more round. And he beat the great Ezra Charles. He beat the great Jersey Joe Walcott to win the belt. Didn't have a long career once he had the belt, made his money and got out. And I don't think his style was one to have a long career. But I always have to say Rocky Marciano. He never lost a fight.
Most in shape fighter ever.
He used to train for 15 rounds. He would train 30, 40, 50 rounds. He ran constantly. He would also get a pendulum clock and watch the pendulum go back and forth because he felt that helped with his eyes. He always had a rubber ball in his hand, squeezing. He was up when he was in training. It was all about training. He was obsessed with it. He would hit
8
a 5
months. 8 months he would go away for training.
500-pound heavy bag that he would hit. Not just he would stuff it with stuff. He was one of the first fighters who trained underwater.
I would love to see him knock out Lennox Lewis.
Well, the thing about him was obviously he had a
Big size difference
68-inch reach, which is like a middleweight,
Right,
correct?
right.
And his heaviest fight was his last fight at 188 against Archie Moore. But the thing that Rocky did well that people don't give him credit for is he threw punches in different angles. He wasn't just coming from here. He would go under. He would lean to his right and then come up with a left uppercut. And then he was hard to hit than people gave him credit for. And obviously those punches, when after the Walcott fight, they tested his punch, and it was the equivalent of a a bullet, armor-piercing bullet. So make of that what you will. And then if we get a clip here, this is Don Cockle, that fight, that big punch I showed you. But he threw nice. That was the uppercut against Walcott.
Yeah,
Walcott too, and the most famous punch in boxing history, where he knocked Walcott out the first fight. That was Joe Louis. But the other fight, great punch that I've talked about a lot on this show, and hopefully we have it. I don't know if we do. But against Ezra Charles, Rocky throws a left and he misses. And great, Jim and I talk about feet all the time. He went left, right with his pressure on the right leg and gave Ezra Charles a great right shot and knocked him out. And Walcott, look at this fight. Walcott was good. He could hit.
Great.
Yeah, he could hit. And again, moved well, but he was look, watch this greatest punch of all time. Watch. Here he comes. Right there, as Howard Cosell used to say.
Jersey Joe's in my top 10.
Yeah. So
He had 50 people, so
he had
everybody's
50
in your
people.
top 10.
But I know the
and
question
he had the mob
is-
too. Was
What's
with him
that?
too. He had a little bit of help with the mob.
No, Rocky was one of the few guys that they said. No, wait a minute now.
That's what they said.
No. Now here's something about that. Here's something about that. Now listen to what I'm telling you.
I knew I'd get him going
Listen to
there.
what I'm telling you. All right. Now, here's what I'm telling you. Rocky, they said Rocky stays clean because he gives the Italians a good image, and this, that, and other thing. Rocky stays clean. Blinky Palermo was the head
him,
back
my
then.
favorite.
Okay, and they said Rocky stays clean, and Rocky did not go for that stuff. Rocky was not one to lose a fight. He was not going to throw a fight.
Right.
Okay, read a ton of stories on Rocky, did a ton of research on Rocky. There was no way. Rocky was very, very proud of that zero, that O, and he was not going to drop a fight. And Rocky was obsessed with money, but he wasn't going to drop a fight to
made
accumulate
sure
the
of
money.
it. No.
But now Primo Canera was always mobbed up. But what people don't want to tell you, and this is my opinion now, that here's a guy who was 6'7", he was the biggest man in Italy. Yeah, there was some mob stuff. That's where the movie Some Fall Harder, or whatever the hell that movie was called. Great show. But that was an old movie. But he lost. The fights he won, I don't believe, were the ones dictated by that group. Excuse me, the fights he lost, yeah, but that's another story. But Rocky, obviously, that they want to stereotype, click him in, but that's okay. But yeah, not Luther. I think Rocky. I think yes, they used to talk about that. They would link it, but it was never. It was always said that the head guy said Rocky stays clean.
I believe it.
And now there was some fights afterwards. Ingemar Johansson, they talked about him coming back. Floyd Patterson coming back. They offered him a ton of money. And Rocky turned it down because he tried to get in shape for Johansson, but he just couldn't. He didn't have the fire anymore to do it. But so those are my top 10, Luther's top 10, and Jim's top 40.
50.
And you got to remember too, growing up, that's all I heard at my house was Rocky Marciano. And then when he passed away, I still have the newspaper that my dad saved when he passed away in the airplane. Yeah, in I believe September 1st, 1969. His birthday was the 31st. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, real quick before we end the show, mailbag. Let's get some quick ones in. All three of us. Who's the best trainer between Angelo Dundee, Emmanuel Stewart, Kevin Rooney, Teddy Atlas, and Eddie Futch? A name that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he was a great trainer. Luke, who you got there? If there's one guy you'd want to train you, Futch, Stewart, Rooney, Atlas, or Dundee?
I like Emmanuel Stewart. I'm going to go with Stewart.
Jim?
Crunk
Dundee.
Jim.
I'm going to go with Dundee, too, because he would probably understand me speaking Italian. Okay, we talked about this off camera. Thoughts on fast? This is all. This is for Luther and Jim. Thoughts on Fast Eddie Chambers? Do you think he should have stayed at a lighter weight than heavy?
No, you know what? He did. He got everything he could out of his skill. I think heavyweight was too big for him, but that's where the money was, and he got a chance to fight. Klitschko almost lost his life, but he got a nice payday out of it, and he's still here. And he did some great things. He was definitely a blown-up cruiserweight, but I'm glad he went all the way up to heavyweight and had a chance to fight for a title.
Smoking Jim, your thoughts on the Fast Eddie Chambers?
Cutie Pie Chambers' son did a great job moving to heavyweight. Should have been a heavyweight.
Eddie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Luther. I think that he should have stayed. He may not have made the big purse one shot, but I think he could have had a nice cruiserweight career and made some nice money after a bunch of fights. He went to fight Klitschko, which Klitschko damn near killed him and put him in the hospital, busted his face up. He had face fractures, if I'm not mistaken.
So he had a brain bleed.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that was pretty much it
dangerous.
after him. I think he should have
I
stayed.
mean, that guy was just the size difference in the reach.
Dr. Steelhammer, yeah, one of the big punchers. Last thing, real quick, we have under a minute. the best venue that we ever announced at, for me, by far, was the Rivers Casino, where me and Jim were inches away from the river. We could actually touch the water, see Pittsburgh, beautiful sight. Love that venue.
Got to be Rivers. That was my favorite one
All right,
too. Yeah.
Smoking?
God's Country, Monroeville. all the
Oh
venues.
goodness.
Hey, one time all three of us were announcing fights. There was a palm tree in front of us. We're going like this. Luther had a camera angle one time. He was like he was going to fall. But for casino for us, and I don't know, Monroe, somewhere in
Monroeville,
Monroeville
wherever
for
that
Jim.
is.
Anyway, as always, Luther Dupree, Smoking Jim Frazier. My name is Claudio Rosano. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Boxing Authorities. We'll see you next time.